Welcome to this explainer. You know, when we hear the phrase military science, it's super easy to picture something totally abstract. Maybe a highly academic concept dreamed up in pristine boardrooms or prestigious academies, far, far away from any actual conflict. But today, we're going to take those grand theories and trace them all the way down to the dirt. We are going to look at exactly how these high-level national defense policies translate into real, tactical, ground-level advantages that actually keep soldiers alive and outmaneuver adversaries in the field. So if you've ever wondered how that gap is bridged, you are definitely in the right place.
Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the science of war, contrast the military doctrines, explore the intelligence advantage, dive into the profit system, and finally look at the future of battlespace tech.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the science of war.
So, at its core, military science is a huge element of comprehensive national power. It is absolutely not just about raw, unbridled force or having the biggest army on the block. It's actually the rigorous study of military processes, institutions, and behavior. The whole goal here is to produce a very specific military capability that lines up perfectly with a nation's defense policy. Think of it almost like a giant puzzle where you're trying to remove chance, chaos, and error from command decisions. It's a massive shift from just throwing troops at a problem and hoping for the best to developing a calculated, scientifically backed capability meant to mathematically ensure victory.
To put that into perspective, let's take a quick look back. In the 1800s, applying science meant mastering topography, trigonometry, and trying to manage these massive linear formations using grease pencil calculations, drawing heavily on the theories of Carl von Clausewitz. The math was literally done in the mud. But then, the Industrial Revolution crashed into the trenches of World War I. Suddenly, cavalry horses were swapped out for combustion engines, and the battlefield was totally dominated by machine guns and mortars. Warfare stopped being just about neat tactical formations. It morphed into this brutal, unforgiving science of logistics, ammunition supply lines, and complex force structure. And that mechanization, that set the stage for our modern era, where rigorous testing, relentless experimentation, and a total reliance on advanced tech completely dominate military thought.
Let's move on to Section 2, contrasting military doctrines.
Now, military science isn't interpreted the same way everywhere. Different global powers apply it to their grand strategies in vastly different ways. For example, Western doctrine relies heavily on technology, an empowered group of non-commissioned officers, and superior information processing. The goal is extreme flexibility and lethality, basically surgically paralyzing the enemy's command structures rather than just destroying their combat power outright. But this agility comes with a really high expense and a massive, sometimes fragile logistical train that constantly needs protection. Russian doctrine, on the flip side, approaches the science of war from a totally different angle. They rely way more on masses of machinery and troops, incredibly tight centralized control, and strictly pre-planned missions. Because of this, they don't fundamentally need a massive logistical train or highly educated individual foot soldiers. Instead, they lean on the overwhelming shock effect of mass. The trade-off, though, is that they sacrifice flexibility for that central control, making it super difficult to pivot quickly to unexpected losses or sudden tactical opportunities.
And then you have Chinese military doctrine, which is in this fascinating, dynamic state of flux. It's a real blend of eras. They draw on traditional indigenous strategies like the classic teachings of Sun Tzu and the modern asymmetric theories of Mao Zedong, while also heavily integrating Western and Soviet influences. They're actively blending that historical People's War concept with highly technical regional war capabilities. What's really key to understand here is their intense focus on the Revolution in Military Affairs, or RMA. They are pouring vast resources into technological modernization, essentially treating military force as just one integrated piece of a much larger grand strategy that also includes economic and cyber warfare.
Okay, Section 3, the intelligence advantage. So, the million-dollar question is, how do we bridge those grand, abstract boardroom theories with actual survival on the ground? The answer is intelligence, specifically signals intelligence, or SIGINT. This is exactly where the science hits the battlefield. SIGINT is the collection of information about enemy intentions and locations by intercepting and pinpointing their electronic signatures. It's what allows commanders to pierce the proverbial fog of war. By mapping the radio frequencies of an adversary, troops can literally map the entire battle space electronically. And a lot of the time, the enemy has absolutely no idea they're even being monitored. This invisible web of information is what actually gives modern forces that extreme flexibility and lethality we just talked about.
Which brings us right to Section 4, enter the profit system.
let's look at a very specific tactical reality where this science is applied, the U.S. Army's Prophet system. To really grasp why this tech is a game changer, imagine you're a commander out in the field. You don't just want to know where the enemy was yesterday, right? You urgently need to know where they are right this very second. As LT Colonel William W. Stevenson, the product manager for Prophet, puts it, it tells the troops where enemy emitters are located, it directly influences the commander's plans. It gives you continuous force protection by basically acting like a real-time radar for enemy communications. Having this actionable intelligence dynamically changes your entire game plan on the fly. You can choose to engage, maneuver completely out of contact, or even use electronic warfare to jam their radios and isolate them.
The leap forward here is huge. For over 30 years, forces were using legacy systems like Trailblazer or Teammate. Setting up the massive antenna masts for those older systems could literally take up to 4 agonizing hours of manual labor, often in hostile territory. The Prophet system? It's conveniently mounted on a Humvee and pops up a 20-foot mast in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes! We are talking about upgrading from manually plotting bearing data on a physical map with grease pencils in the back of a bouncing truck to instantaneous digital triangulation. And here's a crucial detail. Prophet draws its power directly from the Humvee's battery. It doesn't rely on a noisy, incredibly hot separate generator. That significantly lowers the vehicle's thermal and acoustic signature, because in modern warfare, being quiet and running cool directly translates to staying alive.
And the Prophet isn't just some fun whiteboard theory for academics. It's already been tested in the crucible of combat, deploying to Afghanistan for Operation Enduring Freedom. It intercepts enemy voice and data while on the move, covering 10 times the radio frequencies of older systems across high, very high, and ultra-high frequency spectrums. It even has a man-portable unit, so if troops need to leave the vehicle for airborne or air assault operations or conduct dismounted patrols in really rugged terrain, they can actually carry this powerful intelligence gathering capability right on their backs. Plus, it uses SINGARs for secure voice communications over 2 networks simultaneously, keeping our own troops perfectly coordinated.
What's also fascinating is how this capability is built. It uses an open architecture spiral approach, which just means the system is designed to constantly evolve so it doesn't become obsolete overnight. Block 1 kicks things off with core receivers and essential direction finding. Then, blocks 2 and 3 step it up by adding active electronic warfare jamming and the ability to detect incredibly complex, frequency-hopping signals. Block 4 brings in MASCENT, that's measurement and signature intelligence, using networked, unattended ground sensors scattered across the battle space. And going all the way to Block 5, the system integrates microsensors and autonomous robotic platforms. It's just this continuous, rolling evolution of tactical power.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, the future of battlespace tech.
So, where does tactical intelligence go from here? Well, straight up into the sky. The future involves taking this tech off the ground entirely. The Division Tactical UAV SIGINT payload, or DTSP, will let commanders use unmanned aerial vehicles to remotely map radio emitters and launch electronic attacks from thousands of feet above the battlefield. We are heading toward a reality where unattended ground sensors, autonomous robotic platforms, aerial drones, and mobile ground vehicles seamlessly fuse all their SIGINT and MASCENT data together. This creates a comprehensive, multispectral, near real-time picture of the entire battlefield. It completely denies the enemy anywhere to hide.
At the beginning of this explainer, we defined military science as the grand attempt to remove chance and error from the brutal reality of war. But as we take that foundational doctrine and merge it with hyper-advanced, AI-driven, robotic, multispectral tech like the Prophet system, we're piercing the fog of war in ways that guys like Napoleon or Clausewitz couldn't have even comprehended. And that leaves us with a pretty profound question to chew on. What are the ultimate limits of this technology? As AI and autonomous systems take over, will all these interlinked digital signals and algorithms ever truly eliminate the chaos, friction, and fundamental unpredictability of human conflict? That is exactly what military scientists are going to be trying to answer for decades to come. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.